Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, good evening everyone. Today we are going to continue our Patisambhida Magga lectures, and I have shared with you the new handout regarding the second jnana. Out of the 73, we are giving the introduction to every jnana. Last time we talked about Suttamaya jnana and how it could be applied to Buddha as well. And Suttamaya jnana was the wisdom involved in the things that we study through listening, by listening. And that understanding becomes the foundation for the coming wisdoms. Now, this second wisdom, Suttvana Sangvare Panya Silamaya Jnanam, is an outcome of the Suttamaya Jnana. The Suttvana Sangvare wisdom has to be developed based on the wisdom of Suttamaya Jnana. First, we study the Dhamma, we listen to the Dhamma, we grab the meaning, we understand the meaning, and we conceptualize the idea, and then we try to live upon that idea, and we try to make it a part of our life, and we try to live the life what we have learned, the Dhamma we have learned. So that's the first step of going into this practicality from the wisdom or the knowledge, in the knowledge that we have gained is involving in Sila. So after we have gained the knowledge and corrected our view, so Suttamaya Jnana plays a huge role in correcting our view and purifying our vision about the life and the world. A person who has a good Suttamaya Jnana, he is called Sutava Ariya Savaka. So Ariya Savaka sometimes it refers to a person who has attained the nobility or the supramundane paths and fruition. Sometimes it can refer to any disciple of the Buddha who has any disciple of the Buddha can be called Ariya Savaka, Ariyasa Savako, disciple of the Ariya. And among them there is Asutava Ariya, Asutava person. Asutava means who has not learned the thing very well. Normally the Asutava modifier is connected to Putujjana person who is not a disciple of the Buddha, because when you come to the level of disciplehood, always you have heard some or known something. That's why we go our refuge under the Buddha and the Triple Gem. And sometimes rather than saying Asutava, we can say a less learned person. There could be a Putujjana Buddhist disciple who had learned things lesser than someone else. So such a person doesn't have the grasping of a profound doctrine and not learned it thoroughly, but still he has the basic knowledge. That's why he could become a disciple of the Buddha. And then among them, out of the disciples, some gains the knowledge by studying the scriptures thoroughly and memorizing them and conceptualizing them. It means having logically understood what the meaning is. So a person who has gained this thorough understanding about the Dhamma, correctly about the Dhamma, has a purified, correct, straight view. A straight view, a straight view is not a view that is crooked. It means which leads to the exact, which is headed towards the exact goal of Nibbana, which has a more clear vision on how to attain, how to tread upon the path and how to attain the final attainment. A person with a proper Suttamaya Jnana has a proper correct view, Sammaditthi, and that is the beginning stage of the entire practice, because without Sammaditthi, whatever we do would not align with teachings of the Buddha. So then, as the first entrance to the practicality, practical aspect of the Dhamma, we try to adapt this Dhamma into our lives. So adaptation happens in various stages. The initial stage would be to restrain our bodily and verbal behavior, and that means to observe a sila, enter into a proper moral conduct. That's the basic step. So based on Suttamaya Jnana, we enter into the second wisdom, which is called Silamaya Jnana. So that would be our lesson today. Suttvana Sangvare Panya Silamaya Jnana. Suttvana Sangvare Panya Silamaya Jnana. As the other wisdom, this also has two phrases. Suttvana Sangvare Panya. Sangvare means restraining. This signifies sila.
the wisdom which is involved in restraint. There are fourfold restraints. So the wisdom which is involved in them, connected with them, is called Sangvare Panya. So how one attains this restrainment? So that is by Suttvana, having listened to the Dhamma. So that signifies the Sutame Jnana, the previous wisdom. So based on the previous wisdom, we come into the moral conduct. We abstain ourselves or inhibit ourselves from involving or doing misdeeds, verbal and physical misdeeds. So this Suttvana sometimes can be translated as a gerund, having learned, having listened. Then sometimes it can be translated or rendered as a causative form, as a causal form, as a reason, as a cause, based on, due to what one has listened, or due to the listening, or you can also extend it as due to the wisdom upon what we have learned, due to Sutame Jnana, or due to listening. The wisdom involved in restraining is called Suttvana Sangvare Panya Silamena. Either having listened to the Dhamma, or due to the listening, or due to what someone has learned. So first we try to analyze what is Sangvara. Sangvara is restraining. That is abstaining oneself from misdeeds. Sangvara means restraining. There are 4 types of Sangvara taken under this wisdom. So first one is Patimokka Sangvara. Patimokka Sangvara mainly signifies a virtue that is practiced under or having observed the training rules declared by the Buddha. So there are many training rules, especially this is applicable to the Upasampada monks, because that is the highest sila that one can have. So having observed the rules that the Buddha has declared, one practices the restraining, right? One practices the restraining. But it is not only confined to following the rules. Patimokka Sangvara Sila has some other parts or aspects with it. The main component would be practicing, abiding with the rules, so under the rules, according to the rules. Then one also should be careful in the association, in the places and the people one associates, and also about the behavior. Sometimes the rules, there are a set of rules the Buddha has laid down, and some rules may not cover certain behavior. For example, if someone, a monk, goes into the senior monks and start talking, normally such activities, like they go into them, they go closer to them and start talking, that they doesn't involve any offenses. There are no rules regulating such behavior, but they are improper behaviors. So some gestures that we have to develop in our monk life are not specified or specifically mentioned in the training rules. So now, if we say that these are the training rules that the Buddha had promulgated, we have to also be careful about the behavior. Behavior is called achara. Rules are the sikkhapada. But this is the main essence of the Patimokka Sangvara Sila, abiding with the rules. But also one need to be careful about the behavior, and that would surely strengthen one's sila under the training. Then one also needs to be careful about the association. Whom one associates. Gochara. Where one frequently visits, or the people one associates. For example, a monk associating females frequently, or a nun associating males frequently, or a monk visiting bars or liquor shops frequently, or associating some people like politicians too much. So these are called improper association for us. So we have to associate people who are in line with our conduct. So behaviors has to be in line with our conduct, which matches our monk life, and also the people also should match with our behavior. So gochara, one has to be careful, and also one has to be careful having a fear. Fear is one of clear association. Then fear in fault, even in the slightest fault. Anumattesu vajjesu bhaya dasavi. That's how it's mentioned in the Pali. So the Patimokkha Samvara Sila comprise all these 4 aspects, having this as the main essence. So restraining in Patimokkha Samvara Sila is the number 1 in Samvara. That is the we call the most important prominent Samvara, and this is also called Adisila. Adisila. This is the highest sila one can ever have. It can only be attained by observing Upasampada Sila. Then comes the Indriya Samvara Sila. Indriya Samvara Sila, it is not a sila actually. In the entire text of the Tipitaka, Indriya Samvara Sila has never been mentioned as a sila. It's not a sila actually. It's a way of conduct that one must be living. So the thing is found in the text in many of the sutras, but it's mentioned as Indriya Samvara, that's all. It's not a sila actually. So there is no place in the entire text, entire Tipitaka, where Indriya Samvara has been mentioned as a sila. So this discussion has happened in ancient Anuradhapura, and the commentaries clearly mention that Indriya Samvara, out of all the 4 types of silas, now it can be termed as a sila within the tradition, but normally it's not been mentioned as a sila specifically in the text. So out of the 4 silas, Patimokkha Samvara Sila, Indriya Samvara Sila, Ajiya Parisuddhi Sila, and Pacche Sannisita Sila, the foremost sila among them is the Patimokkha Samvara Sila. That is the foremost. And for the lay people, it would be observing the 5 precepts and also the 8 precepts on full moon days, and some would also try to abide with the 10 rules permanently. For the monks, for the ones who have given up the household life, Samaneras have 10 main rules and 75 Sekhiyas. Then also there are other 10 rules that are related to them, and then 14 duties. Altogether they have something like 109 or something. So for the monks, mainly there are 220 rules and 7 adhikaranas. Then we have much more rules from Algeta in the Khandaka Vinaya. Bhikkhunis also have more rules, even more than monks, but we all collectively we call that the Adisila. So Adisila, Patimokkha Samvara Sila is the head of all the silas, because Indriya Samvara Sila can be done or can be practiced only by a person who has the Patimokkha Samvara Sila. If someone's Patimokkha Samvara Sila is broken, is not purified, he will not be able to gain the real benefits out of Indriya Samvara Sila and the other silas as well. So Patimokkha Samvara Sila is the foremost sila, and it is the real sila. So out of them, Adisila is the sila practiced by Upasampada monks, and it can only be followed in a Buddha Sasana by observing. Buddhas do have Adisila because they are Lokottara Adisilas, and their conduct itself is a higher conduct. Pacceka Buddhas do have Adisila. The Savakas are privileged to follow Adisila by receiving the Upasampada and abiding with the rules promulgated by the Buddha. So the Indriya Samvara is guarding the 6 faculties, which is also a very important sila in the progress of the practice. So one has to guard the 6 senses without letting defilements to arise in them. It doesn't need to be Vipassana practice, but for example, if someone is practicing Vipassana regularly in all the postures and all the objects one encounter, naturally he would be having an Indriya Samvara Sila, but Indriya Samvara Sila can be practiced even by a non-Vipassana practitioner. That is, not letting the mind to occupied with kilesas due to the 6 senses. So we encounter objects through the 6 senses. Whatever the object we encounter, we make sure that our mind is not deluded, not defiled by attachment and hatred mainly. So it also, the sutra only talks about attachment and hatred, but the commentaries extend it into delusion as well. So not letting any akusala to arise in the mind due to the objects taken through the 6 senses is the Indriya Samvara Sila, guarding the faculties, which the highest level can be reached only by an Arahant, because even an Anagami is not entirely free from the defilements. So these also a Samvara, restraining, not letting the defilements to occupy the mind. Patimokkha Samvara Sila is not letting the Duccharita Sankilesa, the misdeeds to happen, occur in one's bodily and verbal doors. Ajiva Parisuddhi Sila is abstaining from unvirtuous means of making one's living or find the requisites that are required for one's own life, also of the family members. So Ajiva Parisuddha Sila is purifying your livelihood without restoring to improper means in search of requisites. For monks, lay people, this involves abstaining from unvirtuous or improper occupations. They are the selling of animals for meat and selling liquor, selling poison that would harm the people or harm the living beings, and selling weapons and doing slave trade. So these are the 5 unvirtuous occupations that should be avoided by a lay person. Then for the monks, the Ajiya Parisuddha Sila is mainly threefold, and it also involves the 4th category as well. The mainly threefold Ajiya Parisuddha Sila is abstaining from the 6 rules the Buddha has promulgated for the sake of livelihood. So I'm not going to elaborate them. One is a Parajika rule, one is a Sanghadisesa, one is a Tullachya, one is a Pachitya, one is a Patidesaniya specifically for the bhikkhunis, and another is a Dukkata. So Buddha has laid down 6 training rules, 5 for the monks and 5 for the bhikkhunis. 5 for the monks and 5 for the bhikkhunis. Altogether, we have 6 rules. Not breaching them for the livelihood is one aspect of monks' Ajiya Parisuddhi Sila. Then not searching for requisites through improper means such as kuhana, lapana, and so forth. It means like surprising the people with the attributes that one doesn't possess, like pretending to have higher qualities. Like for example, pretending to be like a meditator while one is not meditating, pretending to be like a noble being while one is a putujana. So if someone tries to surprises the lay people or to arouse faith in them, or a surprise or a excitement in them towards yourself, and for the sake of gain and fame, that is a long livelihood. And also sometimes talking in a way that the lay people could not avoid offering them, and also making them to feel like they have the intention of offering. So these improper means in livelihood, abstaining from them is the Ajiya Parisuddhi Sila. And also the third aspect would be abstaining from anesana. Anesana means there are 21 modes explained in the teachings that one should not follow in order to find the requisites. For this is especially for the monks. For example, treating the lay people or treating them, giving medical treatment, or acting as a messenger of the lay people, bringing messages from one lay house to another lay house with the expectation that the lay people would serve us as a return. So these improper, we have to abstain from those 21 modes, which are called 21 anesana, right? So abstaining from such means of livelihood is called Ajiva Parisuddhi Sila. Then when you go to the Digha Nikaya, few sutras, we find Chula Sila, Majjhima Sila, and Mahasila. In those silas, there's also specific some livelihood has been specified as by the Buddha as Michcha Jivas. For example, like using astronomy as a means of livelihood. So saying becoming a fortune teller as a means of livelihood. It doesn't mean that you cannot study astronomy, you cannot astrology, for example, that is perfectly okay for monks. But if someone use it as a means of livelihood, those things are prohibited by the Buddha. Even treating the people as a doctor or a physician is prohibited by the Buddha. So the 4th aspect is abstaining from livelihood specified by in the, I think it's Chula Sila and Majjhima Sila, not the Mahasila. I actually forgot it, so I cannot exactly recall it. Things that are involved in these 3 main silas. So then Paccaya Sannissita Sila is using the requisites that have been obtained through proper means. A person who abides with the Ajiya Parisuddhi Sila would get the requisites in the proper means, not in the improper ways. So the requisites one obtain are pure, and they are good for any monk to consume. Because if we obtain requisites, it's not good for us to consume the requisites that were obtained through improper means. That's not proper. It also breaches our rules. Some are actually related to the Patimokkha Sangvara Sila as well. For example, if a monk has bought something using his own money, all the monks cannot use it unless it has been undergone a Vinaya Karma or the specific procedures had been followed. So the requisites that were earned through improper means against the Vinaya are not consumable for all the monks. Some are not consumable for that particular monk, others can consume it, but for some requisites cannot be consumed by any person within the Sangha society. So if we abide to the Ajiva Parisuddhi Sila, so we can make sure that the requisites that we possess or we keep are good consumables that are allowable for every monk. So even we have obtained the requisites properly, in proper means following the conduct without breaching the ethics or the rules the Buddha had laid down, still we have to have mindfulness, and we should not let our minds be occupied by the defilements while we are using them. We cannot just enjoy them while using. We have to have very important mindset while using the requisite. That is considering the payojana. Payojana means benefits. Benefits. So one has to contemplate the benefits in using the requisites. Why am I eating this? Why am I using this lodging? Why am I wearing this robe? Why am I drinking or using this medicinal drink or medicine? Why am I consuming it? So for these specific benefits, for my health, in order to cover my body, to keep my shame intact, and also to sustain my body, to live, so I can practice. So we have to contemplate the benefits whenever we are consuming the requisites. If someone is unable to contemplate while consuming, one is supposed to do the contemplation at least once a day. So he will be someone who is eligible to consume this. So there are so much details about that. So Arahant, even he doesn't contemplate, he still deserves to use the requisites. A noble being without contemplation, still he can use them because of his nobility. And then a Putujana monk, if he is a meditator, according to some sutras Buddha has expounded, especially the Achara Sanghata Sutta. So according to that, Achara Sanghata Sutta, if someone practices metta even for a shorter period, he deserves the requisites. So this Ajiya Parisuddhi Sila can be followed in various ways. I'm not going into all the nitty-gritties about that. So anyway, the basic thing is one has to contemplate the benefits of the requisites one is using either on that moment or any time during that day. So one cannot contemplate the benefits of the requisites one have used yesterday. It has to be done on that specific day. It has to be done on that specific day. Then it can also be contemplated, the requisites can also be contemplated in terms of elements such as these requisites are non-self elements, and then you can consume them. And also one can contemplate the repulsive nature of the requisites. The requisites become repulsive after it is been consumed by this body. Think about the food. After it is consumed, it becomes excrement, it turns into the body parts, and it becomes something which is disgusting. And even a robe becomes dirty after being worn for several times. Even a lodging, especially think about a toilet, it becomes dirty place because of the dirtiness of our body, the repulsiveness of our body. Even a lodging becomes something repulsive because certain body parts fall, like hair, saliva, mucus, those things do fall in the places we live. So objectively speaking, after it has been consumed by someone, after someone has lived in a certain lodging, it becomes somewhat dirty actually. So, and also medicine undergoes the same procedure as food does. So in this way, if someone can contemplate the repulsiveness of the requisites, the repulsive nature requisites would undergo, that is also part of the Ajiya Parisuddhi Sila. There are opinions that some teachers believe that contemplation of benefits is a must, and some believe if you can do it, at least the contemplation of non-self elements or the repulsiveness, that would still suffice as the Ajiya Parisuddhi Paccaya Sannisita Sila. So I beg your pardon, that I was talking about Paccaya Sannisita Sila. So these are the four restrainments. So with the Patimokkha Samvara Sila, we don't let our desires to come out and do improper deeds, and we keep ourselves under the training rules laid down by the Buddha, and also we make sure our behavior is proper, and we associate the places that fits us or that matches us, that are suitable for us and also having the fear even on the slightest fault. For the lay people, that is much relaxed actually, Patimokka Samvara Sila. One has to practice at least the 5 precepts, and also one has to be careful about the behavior, especially how when you are treating with the monks, when you are dealing with the elderly, and also then the ones whom you are associating, and also having fear about the fault. But that fear of fault is like not very advanced like that of a monk. For a monk, it can be extended even to the chittupada of having an unwholesome thought. But when someone is living a lay life, especially a marriage life, it's not possible to have that anumattesu vajjesu by dasavi. It should be extended only to breaching of sila and the stronger defilements. Otherwise, you will not be able to live a lay life. So the Patimokka Samvara Sila for monks is very advanced, and it's called the Adi Sila. It's the utmost Sila one can have. Then there are 3 types of minor Silas that we call. Actually, they are not real Silas, which are very conducive to the practice and which are supporting for the Patimokka Samvara Sila. Patimokka Samvara Sila is the real Sila in our Sasana. Then we have Indriya Samvara Sila, guarding the faculties without letting the defilements arising in our mind. And then Ajiya Parisuddhi Sila, that is abstaining from wrong livelihood, not letting the defilements occupy our mind while follow the means that the defilements would suggest in finding the living the livelihood, and also with not letting the mind to be occupied by the defilements while accepting and consuming the requisites. So then out of the 4, the Patimokka Samvara Sila is prominent. That's how the Theravada tradition recognizes. Then this wisdom is an outcome of the Sutta So now this is the 4-fold restraint that we discussed. So the wisdom that is involved in this restraining, that is connected with restraining, is an outcome of the Sutta. A person having listened to an beard or bow in the mind, the realities mentioned under Sutta puts effort to close his body and verbal doors, or restrain his body and verbal doors by preventing the arising of unvirtuous acts. The wisdom thus involved in restraining body and speech is called the Suttvana Samvare Panya. Having learned, we understand the faults of the misbehavior and the benefits of a good conduct, and we restrain ourselves. Sometimes the gerund form can act as an causal form. In such case, Suttvana means due to listening. Sutta hetuna, the wisdom involved in restraining the body and the verbal door due to the listening is called Suttvana Samvare Panya Silame Jnanam. The Suttvana Samvare Panya. Suttvana Samvare Panya. The wisdom which arises together. Now we have explained this part. Samvare Panya is the restraint involved in, wisdom involved in restraining. And Suttvana is having listened or due to this listening. The wisdom happens due to this listening or having listened to the Dhamma. Then what about this part? Sila me jnana. You can see this Sila element here. You can see the Sila element. Sila is the virtue. Then we have Maya Jnana. Jnana is the wisdom. So it has to be something related to Sila, a wisdom that is related to Sila. And this same meaning has been repeated in this second phase. That's what happened in the Sutta me jnana as well. Sotavadhane Panya Sutta me jnana. So the wisdom about the things that one we have learned is called Sutta me jnana. It's called the Sutta me jnana. And Sutta me jnana also it has its own definition. So Sila me jnana, roughly speaking, is the wisdom involved in Sila. Wisdom related to the Sila, or wisdom associating the Sila. So there are 2 etymologies for that. We shall learn it now. The wisdom which arises together with the Sila is called Sila me jnana. Here the suffix maya indicates something that is connected with Sila. So something that is connected. Wisdom is connected with Sila. So while we are abiding the Sila, sometimes wisdom arises with it. So we can observe the rules with the wisdom, with the understanding, with the belief of in karma and vipaka and so forth. So the wisdom that is connected with the Sila, which is involved with the Sila, is Sila Maya. So here Sila Maya, Maya. Sila is the virtue. Sila Maya refers to something connected to the Sila, and that is Jnana. That is the wisdom that is connected with the Sila. So that is the wisdom itself. So the definition must be taken as Sila Mayang Jnanam in the nominative form, wisdom that is connected with the Sila. Though the text gives the word in the locative case, the meaning must be taken in the nominative case. Even though it is Sila Maye, this is for the ones who have studied the Pali grammar, it should be taken as Sila Mayang Jnanam. Sila Mayang Jnanam. Then, according to the another definition, Sila itself is called Sila Maya. Another definition is Sila equals to Sila Maya. Sila Maya equals to Sila. So Maya has no meaning. No meaning. The first definition, Maya signifies something that is connected with the Sila. In the second definition, Maya has no specific meaning. So the wisdom on that Sila Maya is Sila actually, which are connected upon the Sila, about the Sila, or connected with the Sila. It means the wisdom which associates the Sila Maya, that is to say, Sila is called Sila Maya Jnana. It's not only connected, it is related about the Sila. Wisdom about the Sila, wisdom connected with Sila, and all are included. In this definition, the Maya suffix does not have a specific meaning. This Sila Maya Jnana wisdom also includes the wisdom of contemplating the dangers of non-restraining. If someone contemplates the dangers of having an unvirtuous character, contemplating the benefits of restraining, the benefits of having a virtuous character, contemplating the purity of restraining. So the purity one attains through restraining, or the purity of restraining, like the purity of your own Sila, the purity of your own Sila, contemplate the purification of defilements, that is, purity that you attain through Sila, all are included here. So Sila Maya Jnana. So it's not only the wisdom that is connected or arise while we are abiding with Sila, and also while we are contemplating the Sila and see the benefits, when we experience, when we understand the benefits about the Sila, that also Sila Maya Jnana encompasses all these aspects. Now we shall learn the characteristics of Sila. I may not be able to go in detail. I'll just explain two main characteristics of Sila because it's related to this wisdom. Samadhanatta and Upadharanatta. So these are the two main characteristics of Sila. Sila. What is Sila? We all know Sila. Sila is restraining. What does it mean? What does it mean by restraining? Samadhanatta. Samadhana means nature of having, nature of well placed, nature of being well placed. So our bodily and verbal actions are well placed when we are abiding with a Sila. Our bodily and verbal actions are well. What does it mean by well placed? They are not scattered. They are not scattered. What is meant by non-scattering? Non-scattering means they do not bring ill results, bad results in the present and also in the future. If certain actions bring bad results in the present and also in the future, we say they are not well placed. For example, if a dangerous poison was kept on the table, a child can come and drink it and get into a real disaster. So we say that poison was not placed properly. In the same way, if we don't keep our bodily and verbal conduct properly, so they are not well placed, they are scattered, and they are scattered by the defilements, and they would eventually bring lot of ill results or bad consequences in the present moment and also in the future. So in such cases, so what happens when we are practicing Sila, we keep them, we make sure that the defilements do not occupy, do not influence our bodily and verbal conduct. So that means our bodily and verbal conduct, if we are abiding with Sila, are well placed. That means we are not doing anything that would harm ourselves and also that would harm others, and that would not bring bad results in the future. So that is the well placed nature of the bodily and verbal conducts when influenced by Sila or when abiding under a Sila. So that is the Samadhanatta. Samadhanatta also will be found in the Samadhi section. We shall talk about them on the next lecture because Samadhi also has this aspect of Samadhanatta. So in the Samadhanatta of Samadhi means placing the mind on the object very well, and especially having balanced the faculties, and also when the defilements are far away. You can also define that distance in the defilements. So it balances the faculties when the defilements are far away, when the defilements are distant. So the Samadhi keeps the mind on the object very nicely, firmly, without scattering. So samadhi doesn't let the mind to scatter into various objects and wander in various objects, and it let the mind to remain on a single object for a longer period. But on the other hand, sila, it doesn't let the bodily and verbal conduct to get scattered with the defilements. Here scattering means not letting them to be something, or not letting them to be some actions that would result badly in the present moment and also in the future. So that is a samadhanatta of sila. Then upadharanatta means it becomes a foundation. You can read the handout later on. I will not be able to explain all the things that are mentioned in the handout. So you can read by yourself. That's why the handout has been shared. So upadharanatta means it becomes a basis or a foundation for all the other higher attainments, spiritual attainments, such as samadhi, jhanas, magga palas, and so forth. So sila, without sila, one is not capable of attaining all these higher spiritual qualities. Upadharana means it bears, or it becomes the foundation. A foundation bears the upper structure. Foundation, the structure of a house is made upon a foundation. It bears the entire weight of the house. In the same way, sila bears the entire structure of spirituality upon it. And sila is supported by the wisdom. The more wisdom you have, understanding you have about the scriptures, about the doctrine, about the reality, it is an intellectual thing, it is a knowledge that the sila can be strengthened very strongly. And also you have to distance the defilements, you have to remove the defilements that would hinder or that would weaken the sila. If the sila is strong, the foundation is strong. If the foundation is strong, you can build a huge edifice. Edify upon this, a huge building, a strong spiritual structure can be built upon this foundation. So sila is called upadharana because it becomes a foundation for the higher spiritual attainments, and also it becomes, it is the nature of non-scatteredness of the verbal and physical behaviors. And I have also given the proximate cause, the function of sila, and so forth. And one who is with the sila jnana should have known all these aspects. And the more you know, more easier you can follow sila. So these two wisdoms, sutame jnana and silame jnana, are connected. And then the samadhi jnana, samadhi bhavana me jnana, which we are going to do in the next lecture. Maybe next week or maybe in the next semester. It depends on the schedule that we have in IIT, because we are going to start the monks exam program soon. So sometimes I may not be able to do the lectures on the next week. That will be announced actually. If not, we will be starting in June, and we'll try to continue have a good regular lectures every week. So we'll be able to cover a good amount of the lecture. So that will be, next lecture would be samadhan, is about the samadhi, and we will learn sangvaritva samadhani. Due to restraining or having restrained, one practices samadhi. So these three wisdoms, sutame jnana, silame jnana, and samadhi jnana, are related to each other. And then based on samadhi, based on sila, and based on sutamaya, we develop the remaining vipassana jnanas as well. So that would be the lesson. So silame jnana is the jnana involved in sila, while we are abiding with sila based on the knowledge that we gain through listening and studying the Dhamma. So I conclude the lecture, opening the forum for the Q&A session. And don't be hesitant to ask questions. If you have any, we can clarify there. Yeah.
May I have your permission to ask a question? That's actually not a question on the content you gave, but I have been reading the Sinhala Patisambhida Magga, and when you read that, the details given under Sutame Jnanam is very exhaustive. So you seem to be taking a summary of that and probably not going into all the details that are given in the Patisambhida Magga Pali.
No.
Am I right?
No. The Patisambhida Magga gives the list of the jnanas in the first page. Then the commentary explains these terminologies. So I'm in the commentarial explanation of these terminologies. After we have covered all the introduction to all the 73 wisdoms, then I go into this exhaustive explanation on the Sutta Meññana. I'll be explaining each and every word. This will be a very long course, and I'm determined to do it as far as my health is there. Fine. So after, in the next semester, I'm going to cover a considerable amount of the 73 jnana, these type of introductions. Then the nirdesa of each jnana will be talked. So if for every jnana there is a long description, the longest would be the Sutta Meññana. So I'll be explaining each and every word in that long description. That is the second section actually. We are doing is uddesa. Uddesa is just the wisdoms. So the commentary has explained them, the word meanings of those specific words, specific jnanas. Then we go to the detailed one as the second section.
Thank you very much. Much merits to you, and we really appreciate your effort to bring this deep rooted Dhamma knowledge to all of us. Much merits to you. Thank you, and ථෙරුවන් සරණයි.
ථෙරුවන් සරණයි Bhante. I have one question, and actually this is regarding the sila which a lay person can take. So if someone wants to take the 8 precepts or the 10 precepts permanently, it is possible, right? I mean, someone can do this, right?
Normally, yes, possible. You can even have 6 sila. That is, you can have the 5 precepts, and you can add the vikala bhojana only even. You can have the 6 precepts. I've seen in books that people, in some Dhamma books, like I haven't read it in the commentaries yet, but in Dhamma books, you can have the 6 sila. And you also can have 5 precepts. One can also have the 5 precepts together with the brahmacharya instead of kamesu miccāchāra. In ancient days, in the earlier ages, before the marriage, some people used to do that. I don't know whether it's possible these days with the society. So some used to practice 5 precepts instead of kamesu miccāchāra. They used to practice abrahmacharya. So there's Komara brahmacharya they call. So, and you can add either to the 5 precepts with kamesu miccāchāra, you can add vikala bhojana, or with the abrahmacharya, one can add vikala bhojana. And you can have your own tailor-made sila. That's not an issue. A tailor-made sila. So normally the 8 precepts are followed on the Uposatha days. That is the full moon day and the new moon day. Normally in Sri Lanka we follow it on the full moon day. Some elderly people who have leisure time go observe on the new moon day as well. And there is within a fortnight we have in the lunar system we have it's a hybrid system, lunar and the solar system. In a fortnight, actually 15 days, within the 15 days, which we call a paksha in Sinhalese, or pakha in Pali. Within these 15 days, the 8th, which is the center, the middle day, is also considered as a uposatha. At that day, the moon is exactly half. On a one fortnight, it is half to one side. On the other fortnight, the half is seen on the other side. So that is also taken as an uposatha day. So some people observe uposatha on the Atavaka day, the 8th day of the lunar calendar, of the paksha, sorry. So 8th day. Then we can also observe, the 15th is the uposatha day, and some used to observe, as the Buddha has recommended, you can observe on the 14th as well. So we can do our Patimokkha either on 14th or either on 15th. So these are the 3 days normally they observe the uposatha, 8th, 14th and 15th. So how a paksha is taken, you take the new moon day, there is a no moon day, for example, dark moon day. So from the next day is the first day. So then till the full moon day, there are 15 days normally. Then after the full moon, the next day is the first day. Then till the new moon, there is another 15 days. Sometimes it can be 14, sometimes it can be 15. So normally we have our own way of calculating within the monk. Sometimes that may change in the government calendar in Sri Lanka. So monks have our own calculation. So normally it falls every 15 days. On some occasions it falls on 14 days, on the 14th day. So we can observe the uposatha either on 14th or 15th, or you can do it. We cannot recite the Patimokkha on both days. We have to recite only once. But for you all, you can observe on the both days. So you can have 3 days on which you can observe the eight precepts. But according to Magadeva Sutta or the Makhadeva Sutta, according to Sri Lankan scriptures, in the Chatta Sangha it's called Magadeva, GH, Magadeva. So according to that commentary, King Makhadeva or Magadeva observed extra days as well, which is called Pariharya Uposatha. Pariharya Uposatha days. So what he did was 8th, 14th and 15th are the standard days. You take the days before the Uposatha and after Uposatha. So he observed 8 precepts. As being a king, he observed on the 7th, 8th is the standard day, and also on the 9th. So one day before and after the standard day. Then when it comes to the end of the Paksha, 14th and 15th, so he observed on the 13th as well, on the 16th. 16th means the first day of the next fortnight. So in that way, 7 days can be observed. In 7 days, one can observe the 8 precepts. So these are the for the 8 precepts. But if someone determines to live the 8 precept life for the whole life, or maybe for a month, maybe for 2 weeks, that's perfectly okay. And some use to 10 precepts normally is followed as a permanent sila. The reason is you have to give up money. You cannot have your money for yourself. Kapiyas may keep some money for the usage of monks, and that has to be done according to the Vinaya procedures. Monks cannot handle them as they want. Monks cannot accept it. There are ways it can be done according to the Vinaya of the Buddha. But for example, layperson possesses the money for him or herself. That is an issue for once you observe the 10 precepts. So either you have to completely abandon, when we are going for the temporary ordination also, you have to give up it with your mind. So when you, after you disrobe, you can accept what is there and take it to yourself and use it. So when you are observing the 10 precepts, technically, if there is money in the bank account and you feel it that it is mine, this is contradicting with the rule. But some Theras have said you can do the 10 precepts temporary. I have seen in Veerukani Chandivana Mahathera's book as well that sometimes you can observe 10 precepts temporarily, but there is an issue actually, because the 10 precepts for the monks and the lay people are quite similar. Monks have a more advanced type of a 10 precept, because a lay person can accept money for someone else. Monks cannot do that as well. So it's very similar to the 10 precepts of a Samanera. So normally the ones who observe the 10 precepts, they give up the duties in the household, they hand over the responsibilities to someone else, and they depend. Normally a person with 10 precepts are depending on someone else, because like monks do. So highly recommended to observe the 8 precepts if possible. And still 5 precepts is also possible, but more the precepts you observe, more restraint you are gaining, which is more conducive to your practice. So it's up to you, it's up to the person. And also they can have a tailor-made type of precepts, and of course you can have 9 precepts, 8 precepts as Visakha did, 8 precepts, and the 9th one, which is not an actual precept actually, living with the metta mind, the loving kindness mind the whole day. Metta sahagatena cetasa sabbang sattang paritva viharami, or something like that. So yeah, it is completely based on the preference of the person.
Yes, and I have one last question, Bande. Like, can someone also read the Bhikkhuni Patimoksha, and like there are lots of rules there, right? Like I think 330 something rules, but 300. So I mean 311. So if when you read it, you see that the reason why the Buddha has put all these rules is because this actually helps when you're going in the path, right? And it helps to have sense restraint, and also to become a better person. And it's like a huge blow you're putting on the kilesas. So because of this, I was just thinking that but if someone reads this and follows some of the rules which are in there, like not as a permanent sila, but like just
it's not about handling money, it's about possessing money. That's the point. It's not about handling money, it's possessing money. So technically it's done in some monasteries. It's done even in Naven, I remember we do that. Even I myself has given 10 precepts to normal audience. I myself as a lay boy, because I ordained at the age of 19, so I didn't possess any money, but I didn't know it in detail. So obviously you have monies in your bag, right, in school bag or on this, and you think it's yours. So what I personally thought, like, if you are not handling money on that day, if you keep the money on in the house and come, that would be fine. Seems like it's okay as long as you're not handling. But if you go to the essence of the rule, you are not accepting. 𝐿 𝐷𝐿 not accepting. Accepting means you are not having anything. You're not having. So for example, if a monk has money, he must relinquish them. He must relinquish them. So when we become monks, we gave up, for example, anything that was for our bank account, because I had some money, like due to my scholarship or something, some grade 5 scholarship, or there's money, the government invest in like there's some kind of a insurance for you after you pass the scholarship. So I all handed over to my father and became a monk. So normally we release everything that is under us. But even if you just give up with your mind, that would be fine. And I'm unable to give you an exact answer because that has been a tradition, and I myself also did it when I was a layperson. And but it seems after I have studied the scriptures, I feel like there's something fishy there, because one is possessing money, because 𝐷𝐿 𝐷𝐿 𝐿 means one is completely abstaining from monetary issues. So that's why in the scriptures, why I got convinced about this idea is in the scriptures it is mentioned there are 2 permanent silas for the lay people and 1 occasional sila for the lay people. What are the 2 permanent silas for lay people? Upasampada sila is a permanent sila, Samanera sila is a permanent sila. You can upgrade it to Upasampada sila because Upasampada sila encompasses the Samanera sila as well. Temporary ordination is something that you decide. There's no such a thing called temporary ordination. It's that you are deciding to you can do that. So it's a very beneficial thing. There's no such a thing called temporary ordination, but one can practice, previously determine that I will practice as a monk for 3 months or 5 months or 1 year and do that. But still it's a permanent sila. It falls under the permanent sila. So there are 2 permanent silas of a lay person, Pancha Sila and Dasa Sila. So it seems like it's a permanent Sila. So if someone observes Dasa Sila, it's a way of life. It's not, Atta Sila is a temporary, because you abstain from singing and all these stuff only on the Uposatha day, and then after that, Abrahmacharya, and then one can go back to the lay life and have the sensual life, even have sex. So, but for the Dasa Sila person, it's a permanent one. I think the permanency is due to giving up money. That's my opinion. It's my personal opinion. But there can be, maybe if you are not handling money, observing Dasila would be okay. That's how the custom is there. It has been followed by, because no Mahathera has specifically emphasized and said, don't do that if you have money in your house. So I'm not taking that bold position to say you cannot do that, but I have a doubt on it. So because one is possessing money at home and he holds it for himself, even though he's not touching them, but he is a person, he or she is possessing money. So can one observe this rule? Because when we are becoming monks, we are told give up all the possessions of money as a Samanera, because Samanera Sila and the layperson Sila is identical. This 10th precept, Jata Rupa Rajata Patighana Veramani Sikkhapadan Samana, that's exactly what we say when we became Samaneras. Monks have a slightly different rule. Yopana Bhikkhu, Jata Rupa Rajata Ugganhiyava Uggannapeyiva Uppanikkittanga Sadhiya Pachita. It's a different rule. So that's my answer. I'm not able to give you an exact answer for that. I hope you understand my intention. Right?
Yes, and I have one last question only. Can someone also read between Patimokkha and like there are lots of rules there, right? Like I think 330.
311.
300.
311.
So, 300. So when you read it, you see that the reason why the Buddha has put all these rules is because this actually helps when you're going in the path, right? And it helps to have self-restraint and also to become a better person. And it's like a huge blow you're putting on, making less up. So because of this, I was just thinking that what if someone reads this and follows some of the rules which are in there, like not as a permanent figure, but like
You mean you're adapting some rules from the Bhikkhuni Patimokha? You can do that. Some rules are would be very helpful. But if you try to adapt all, that will be a real conflict within about your disciplehood. For example, a bhikkhuni is not allowed to cut trees. A bhikkhuni is not allowed to damage the plants. Okay, they are not allowed to dig the earth. For example, when a monk is in need, sometimes a lay devotee, we would ask the lay devotees to support that. If all the lay devotees follow the bhikkhuni rules, there would be no way of us doing constructions and all this stuff. So if everyone starts to adapt this, there would be an issue. I know some Sila Matas who are trying to follow the Bhikkhuni rules, and sometimes it can cause some issues within the Sangha society. So if you are flexible and to keep the disciplehood very nicely and adjust according to the situation. But some rules are there. I don't know whether they are practical to follow, because bhikkhuni, some are related to sex, some are related to sensuality. Yes, one can adapt them and live personally. They can live personally, adopt them personally and live under them, and you will get the benefits if you follow them. But some rules, there are like if all the lay people start to follow some rules, not all the rules, I mean some rules, there can be now, for example, a Samanera thinking that determining that I would follow all the rules of a bhikkhu and I would not cut trees, I would abstain from digging the earth, then it's going to be a issue on the bhikkhu society, because we need the help. Because there is a rule that you cannot cut trees and dig earth, but you cannot practically live with that. So we are bounded to depend on the non-upasampada people for that, the ones who are not fully ordained. So Samaneras is a must for Samaneras too. We cannot enforce them, but it's a traditionally must that a Samanera must do. They should do the Kappiyam. We cannot do our Kappiyam. If Samanera say, I am following Upasampada rules, even though I am not an Upasampada monk, this is going to be a huge issue in the process. So therefore, if you adapt all the rules, that is going to broaden some issue in this. So some rules, you can specifically select some rules that are not going to affect in that way, that are very personal stuff. Yes, for example, if I take for a lay person, for a lay boy, because monks are not allowed to masturbate. So if a lay person adopts that and say, I will not masturbate, so that would be a perfect rule for himself, because it's not going to affect anyone. That is personal choice. But if it's decided, I will not cut anything that is a plant or that has that could propagate, so he will not be able to serve the monks. And so you have to understand which rules are applicable, which rules can be adapted, and which rule one can also feel like if monks need, if in a need, I would do that, otherwise I may not do that. So for example, a person would need to clean his garden. You cannot ask someone else to do that, right? So people have to do by themselves. For the monks, they would accept that. They would be very happy to support. So you have to understand the social context. You have to understand the context you are living in, the situation, the society, and the application, and then yes, you can take a lot. I'm not discouraging that. There are a lot you can take and practice personally. I would encourage that.
Thank you so much, Bhante, and much merits to you for holding this program.
Okay, that was nice.
That was online.
Okay, I think the time is up, and I hope everyone enjoyed that. So most probably we'll meet in next semester, June. We'll restart this program from where we stopped, and most probably it will be no class tomorrow next week. Seems like we'll let you inform on that. So wish you all the best and hope to meet you on the next lesson. And we'll have a continuous programs uninterrupted, so we'll be able to cover a large portion of the Patisambhida Magga next semester. So wish you all the best. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu.